What was the relationship between Kaiser Wilhelm II and Hitler? And what did Kaiser Wilhelm II say about Hitler back then? Hello and welcome again to the Global Cultural Drift podcast. Geopolitical Queen here with today's episode on the complex relationship between Kaiser Wilhelm II and the Nazis before the horrors of the Second World War. Before the atrocities of Nazism and before the man at the center of it all, there was an emperor and a king who could never have foreseen what was to happen to his beloved homeland. The German Kaiser, Kaiser Wilhelm II, who was also King of Prussia, was the last monarch to rule the German Empire. His reign began in the summer of 1888, when he ascended to the throne, believing it to be a perfectly normal succession. What he could not have known was that he was ushering in the final chapter of the German monarchy and becoming a significant part of history that would lead to a grim future. Wilhelm II was a man of deep pride and great ambition. Under his rule, the German Empire would rise to become a world power with a fleet to rival that of Britain and a growing industrial might. Wilhelm wanted to make Germany a leading nation, but his drive for expansion and influence led to tensions with other major powers, particularly Great Britain and France. These tensions eventually led to the outbreak of World War I, with Germany's defeat and internal collapse as the result. At the end of World War I, Wilhelm II's rule practically ended, and on November 9, 1918, he was forced to abdicate. This abdication left Wilhelm bitter and angry. He left his homeland and went into exile in the Netherlands, vowing never to return until Germany became a monarchy again. Germany was now a republic, the Weimar Republic, which Wilhelm had no love for. Adolf Hitler, the future dictator of Germany, also had little sympathy for the Weimarists. In stark contrast to Wilhelm in almost every way, Hitler did not support the former monarchy and considered the deposed Kaiser a disastrous leader. Hitler was equally dissatisfied with the Weimar Republic. He and his party attempted a coup in 1923, but it failed. By 1932, the economic instability and general chaos of the Weimar Republic led people to support the previously unfavorable Hitler and his party. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, became the largest political party in the German parliament. In January 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. This was the beginning of a very dark era. Hitler quickly invoked Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution and passed the Enabling Act to strengthen his own power and authority. Wilhelm, however, remained in his Dutch exile. but he was far from and disconnected from German politics. Wilhelm was extremely unpopular, and many blamed him for World War I. The British wanted him executed so badly for everything they believed he had done that his own cousin, King George V of Great Britain, refused to defend him. Wilhelm himself was bitter and angry about recent events in the world and the injustice he felt had been done to him. He had lost his titles and power and had watched his monarchy implode and be replaced by a republic he had no sympathy for. While he closely monitored the political situation in Germany and hoped that he might one day regain his throne, he instead watched Hitler lead his homeland down a dark path. Wilhelm may have developed strong opinions about Hitler during the failed coup attempt in 1923, and although the uprising was quickly crushed, Wilhelm was extremely suspicious of the motives behind it, but nevertheless condemned the actions of the future chancellor. Wilhelm, however, made the mistake of thinking that Hitler wanted to restore the monarchy in any context. In reality, Hitler had no intention of doing so, but pretended to want to in order to gain the support of the monarchists. In January 1931, Hitler sent World War II veteran Hermann Göring to meet Kaiser Wilhelm in his Dutch exile. The meeting was brief and tense, and only increased Wilhelm's distrust of the new German party. Göring returned the following year and stayed with Wilhelm for a whole week. Many in the party believed they had convinced him, but the opposite was the case. Kaiser Wilhelm was not to be swayed. He regularly warned his family to stay away from the party, and in his view of it and its leaders remained extremely negative till the end. Wilhelm opposed many of the party's principles and policies. He could not warm up to the concept of the National Socialism. In his own words, that socialism is incompatible with the idea of nationalism. Although Wilhelm himself is said to have made anti-Semitic remarks back then, he was far from the fanatical anti-Semitism of Hitler. When Wilhelm saw the treatment of the Jews in the Third Reich, he was horrified and disgusted. He was so disgusted that he said for the first time, "I am ashamed to be a German." Nevertheless, Kaiser Wilhelm occasionally tried to give the Chancellor credit, albeit sometimes in a somewhat dishonest way. In between his attempts to cut any possible links with the Nazi regime, he tried to genuinely praise what the Third Reich had achieved within its own borders. And he even sent a message to Hitler after the successful victory over the French. But the letter was only partly complimentary. Although Kaiser Wilhelm congratulated Hitler, He referred to the troops fighting for Hitler as his own troops. This, understandably, angered Hitler, who called the old monarch an idiot. This was probably the last contact between the two men. While Kaiser Wilhelm was left with nothing but to befriend the guards now stationed around his house in the Netherlands due to the German occupation, Hitler was busy with the war and showed no sympathy for the deposed monarch or his supporters. When the Kaiser died on June 4, 1941, the German authorities saw it as an opportunity for a dramatic propaganda event. The plan was clearly a lavish state funeral in Berlin for the last Kaiser of the German Empire. Hitler was to play the role of the mourning successor and the end of the era of the monarchy, which could then be officially sealed. But Wilhelm had expressly forbidden any such funeral for himself in his will and ordered that he be buried exactly where he had died, on his own estate in the Netherlands. Another school of thought also says that he couldn't be buried, or he could be buried only after a new monarch ascended the throne, a reason why his body is still standing in the mausoleum in the Netherlands and not yet buried. The opinion of the German Kaiser and former king of Prussia, Wilhelm II, towards Hitler remained a mixture of disgust, resentment, and outright rejection. This feeling was mutual between the two men at odds over the fate of a state which they both lived and died in opposition to each other. Kaiser Wilhelm's own words could not express his dislike of Hitler more clearly. In his words describing Hitler, he said, "There is a man alone without family, without children, without God. He builds legends, but he does not build a nation. A nation is created by families, by religion, and by tradition. It is made up of hearts of mothers of wisdom, fathers of joy, and the exuberance of children." In his last words, he said, "Germany under Hitler is an all-devouring state, contemptuous of human dignity, and the old structure of our race takes the place of everything else. The man who embodies this whole state is himself alone. He has neither a god to honor, nor a dynasty to preserve, nor a past to consult. This man could bring home victories to our people every year without bringing them glory. But of our Germany, which was a nation of poets, musicians, artists, and soldiers, this man has turned it into a nation of hysterics and anchorites, engulfed in a crowd and led by thousands of opponents or fanatics. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was the story of the relationship between Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany and Adolf Hitler in Germany before the Second World War. If you like to listen to such stories, just click on the notification bell. Please subscribe and share, and I will be back in the next broadcast. Good day.